War. War never changes. As said by Ron Pearlman. As far as a quote goes, it's a great one to describe the console wars. Times where people were genuinely up in arms to passionately defend their purchases of a certain console by dissecting each of them in excruciating detail. For those who don't understand the console war, it's hard to paint a mental picture of what is essentially gaming not for fun or for a goal, but just to defend a company. The release of games were just sales numbers, review scores you could screenshot and show other people. All of this in an effort to say that a console, not a game or even an experience, was superior.
Merry Christmas, Xbox.
Getting back on topic, this tale stretches back into the 90s. Sega versus Nintendo set the stage for what a console war is, with each company outright insulting the other in advertisements to get you, the consumer, to buy their product.
Why can't it be more like that nice boy Mario?
Inevitably, this console war brought about innovation between these companies because the companies themselves were fighting on the front lines with each other. Nintendo, obviously, didn't have to do much work by having a large amount of the popular games to play on their console, but Sega put in the work to popularize phrases like blast processing, which then made Nintendo respond by quote-unquote debunking it. This bickering was made especially funny years down the road because commonly, many people didn't think blast processing was actually a thing. It really was just a marketing buzzword to get people to buy the Genesis, and it would almost be as funny as the truth if it just ended there. But blast processing does exist, and it's a very real feature that not a single shipped Genesis game ever used. This entire list, not one of them ever used it. Not once. Why? It's so stupid. In a more recent era, most people know the console wars as Sony versus Microsoft, the Xbox versus PlayStation. These two titans duke it out on the front lines of consumer store shelves, while Nintendo just kind of does their own thing. All of this began in the early 2000s, with Sony releasing the PS2, and it quickly becoming the best-selling console ever made, a title it still holds to this day. The PlayStation 2 was secretly, not so secretly, meant to step on Microsoft's toes by competing with home computers, something Microsoft noticed, so they decided to respond with the Xbox.
Xbox.
And The Rock.
That's fascinating. Well, thanks, Rock.
And even with the help of my baby, Microsoft managed to make it 21st on the list of best-selling consoles. It didn't exactly dethrone the PS2, but what it did was carve a space in the console market for Microsoft to dominate, especially when Microsoft released Xbox Live, which, while not the first ever online option for a console, it was the only one to include things like a friends list, a gamer tag that sticks with you in every game, and voice chat.
So yeah, you're gay.
Maybe that one was a mistake, but you get what I mean. The late 2000s brought forth a surge of renewed energy towards a console war between Sony and Microsoft, except this time, the companies were playing Cold War. They're not buying advertisements to shit all over another console. Instead, they were letting the studios they owned or the games that released do the talking for them. Things became petty pretty quickly. Both companies would withhold stating the price of their console for as long as possible, which ended up working in Microsoft's favor as when it came time to reveal prices, Sony released the PS3 at $500, $100 more than the most expensive Xbox 360. Although, win for Sony because the Xbox has a little issue where it self-destructs by overheating. But then the PS3 is so notoriously hard to develop for that people start joking it has no games. Eventually, both companies had to bend the knee to the Wii by trying to create their own motion control systems. I own two Kinects, and I can safely say I hate both of them equally. For, fairness sake, I have to mention the PlayStation Move here and acknowledge it exists, but I really don't want to talk about it.
Write this song?
Link Puzzle Pokemon, Toe Jam and Earl and Panic on Funkotron.
Please allow a brief intermission for the sponsor of this video. When it comes to smarts, I'll be the first to admit I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. It comes with the territory when 90% of your reading is spent scrolling through old forums to see what people back in 2009 thought about the console wars. However, knowledge is something we're all after, and while learning about useless video game facts can be fun, sometimes you might be interested in learning something a little more worthwhile. This is where the sponsor of this video, Brilliant, can step in to help you. See, most people think that complicated topics like calculus or coding are things that are locked away behind thousands of dollars or hundreds of hours of education. But that isn't entirely true. Brilliant offers the best way to interactively learn complex topics relevant to today's world in an easily digestible format. All you need to do is take a quiz after signing up that tells Brilliant what you're interested in, and they'll instantly pair you with whatever courses fit your interests. Whether you're looking to sit down and lock in on math for quantitative finance, or you're looking to get it twisted and you want to know the ins and outs of casino probability, Brilliant most likely has a course that you're interested in right now. And with Brilliant's learning model, you can sit down anywhere and pick up and put down any lesson at your own pace on your own time. I mean, honestly, what else are you going to do in an airport? You can only walk around so much. So sign up today with the link in the description below, brilliant.org/Stryxo, and let Brilliant help you reach your learning goals. You can get started free for 30 days, and the first 200 people to use my link get 20% off an annual plan. All right, where was I? Oh, yeah, okay. 2013 saw the announcement of the Xbox One, and Microsoft was like, well, to play games on our console, you have to connect to the internet once every 24 hours, and the Kinect is required now for it to work, and you have to pay a fee to play used games. And then Sony was like, wait, what? Yeah, Microsoft had to roll that one back. They apologized for that one. For a lot of people, normal people, the console wars died at this moment, but Microsoft shifted priorities to turning their consoles into an ecosystem. Sony continued going down the traditional route of consoles with exclusives, and Nintendo just kind of kept printing money, doing their own thing, except when they didn't print money, but we don't talk about that. Now, unfortunately, the people who didn't give up on the console wars have sort of insulated themselves on forums and social media websites, where they've deluded themselves into thinking the console wars even matter anymore. Imagine instead of the Japanese World War II veterans coming out of the forest they hid in to the war being over, those World War II veterans just created their own insular community. Strategy for combat has shifted as well, from frontline warfare to Cold War proxy tactics, and now being just guerrilla warfare. This sounds insane, but let me give you a little bit of an example. Let's say you're a die-hard Xbox warrior. You can't just outright say that Xbox is better than PlayStation because the console war is lame, quote unquote, and people know that now. You have to go through hoops to have plausible deniability that you're just poking fun and making a few points. So let's set up the post. Final Fantasy XVI released somewhat recently, so that's the game we're targeting. Hi-Fi Rush is a fun game. People liked it, and it's exclusive to Xbox and PC. If we look on Metacritic, Hi-Fi Rush has the same score as Final Fantasy XVI, but on Metacritic, each port of a game is rated differently, meaning that Hi-Fi Rush is 2 points higher on PC. Throw a quick image together in Photoshop, caption the tweet with something like, wow, hope Spider-Man 2 gets higher than an 87 on Metacritic, and that's perfect. This is also a real post that was made by a real person and the genuine thought process they went through to make it. I shouldn't need to explain why comparing these two games is dumb, nor should I have to explain the fact that Final Fantasy XVI has nearly 4 times the amount of critic reviews compared to Hi-Fi Rush. This is how the console wars have lived on though, and it is so mind-numbing. Most of these people will just say they're an impartial observer, and let their cultivated fan base post their propaganda reminiscent of days long gone. Once you understand what's going on, it's so easy to spot these complaints as nothing more than genuine propaganda, and for what reason, I just can't understand. Both of these companies have completely moved on from the console war. Sony is entirely focused on single player experiences, Xbox is focused on getting people to purchase Game Pass, and
Minasan konnichiwa. Xbox no Phil Desu.
And Nintendo is printing money on like 2016 tablet hardware. All of this is especially telling after Microsoft moved to acquire Activision Blizzard. This was the only time throughout the current console generation that I think Sony and Microsoft were actually bickering with each other. A lot of it, however, was these companies bending over backwards to the FTC so they could seem sympathetic. To get an idea of just how insane this battle was, Sony publicly said that no publisher could create a franchise today that could rival Call of Duty. Okay. And even the FTC said Call of Duty is so exceptionally valuable and unique. Okay. That's an opinion. On top of that, by the admission of Microsoft and thus Xbox, we are not in the business of out-consoling Sony. The whole console war has been dead in the water for a while now, and the people fighting it somehow don't realize that. People buy consoles for a multitude of different reasons. Most of the reasons in the modern day just being personal. If you care about playing games and productivity, just get a computer. If you don't want to spend a bunch of money on a computer, $500 gets you unbeatable hardware for the price. The Xbox Series X gets you into the Xbox ecosystem, where you're heavily encouraged to buy Game Pass. Xbox isn't really focused too much on releasing exclusives. One of the two they were banking on this year caused Phil Spencer to go on a live stream and just explain what happened. And with Microsoft buying up so many studios, the amount of Game Pass games available only continues to grow. Buying a PlayStation 5 doesn't get you Game Pass, but the games you do get exclusive access to are mostly high-quality AAA single-player experiences. God of War Ragnarok, Last of Us 2, Final Fantasy 16, Spider-Man 2, that's kind of like it, except for maybe 2 more that are coming soon. There's really not that many exclusives. These all act as console sellers for very different target audiences. The Switch is the quote-unquote brand new Nintendo console. It's $300, and the games you get access to are fun, incredibly polished experiences, except Pokemon. Jesus. There's no correct opinion here, and going back through every single console war that has happened, there was no correct opinion there either. The Genesis and the SNES both offered amazing games, as did the N64 and the Dreamcast. The OG Xbox has some absolute killers, same with the PlayStation 2. The Xbox 360 might have started out dominating, but the PlayStation 3 caught up in the end anyway, and it didn't matter because everyone and their mother had a DS and a Wii. The Xbox One had a rocky start with the whole cable and always online thing, but things balanced out. The PlayStation 4 might have provided a more all-around experience between single player and multiplayer, but all some people needed was Halo and COD, and they lived. The Wii U had Star Fox Zero, New Super Mario Bros. Okay, look, no one was able to buy the Series X or the PS5 anyway. Both are cheaper options to get computer-like performance for the games you feel like playing in your living room. Something like 5 games, something $10.99 a month. Moral of the story, Nintendo printed money once again. Like, holy shit, only beaten out by their other consoles and the lifetime sales of the PS2. Consoles don't matter. Whether you play games on the latest cutting-edge computers or consoles, or you're still holding on to your modified 3DS because no one feels like porting Kid Icarus Uprising, the only thing that matters are the games. Without them, these are all useless, incredibly expensive paperweights. So hurl insults all you want, act like you don't enjoy Starfield or Spider-Man 2, and sometimes just straight up lie, like not even trying to hide it. Come on, man. All I'm trying to say is that the world has left the console wars behind. And please, for the love of God, if you believe in the console wars, shut up about video games. All of your opinions are just the worst. I hate having to listen to them. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, watching another, or joining my Discord to discuss.